Hello, programming students. I'm going to be covering section 2.4 from chapter 2. We had already gone over the first couple of slides, but I'm going to remind you or refresh your memory of what we were doing last class. Okay, so it's called the simple flow of control. And we saw that the definition for the flow of control is the order in which the statements are executed. Okay, and I gave you an example. Let me do it again. Okay, so this is the source code 02, I believe it's 0201, okay, that we had already tested previously. So I just wanted to show you what the flow of control is. So your code is going to be executed line by line. And in order to demonstrate it better, okay, let's debug it. Okay, so remember, we're going to you can either hit F10, okay, or just look for the step over in under the debug tab. So it's step over. Okay, yes, build it. Okay, hold on. Close it. Okay, so now it starts here. Okay, so let's press F10 again. Okay, so it goes to the first line. Now it doesn't go line by line on the declarations. Okay, so it just like knows that these variables are being declared already. So it goes line by line. So to the number of bars and weight, then you enter the number of candy bars. Let's say it's 3 candy bars, and then I don't know, 4.5 ounces, because that's a double. Okay, and you see how it goes to the next line and so forth. Okay, so let me hit it once again. Okay, and here it's taking the value. So the number of bars was 3, the one weight was 4.5, the total weight, like this calculation was already performed, and if you put the cursor it already has the answer and so forth. Okay, so it goes line by line. So let me stop debugging it. Now, what happens when you have different alternatives or different choices? Because there you didn't have a choice. Okay, so you just inputted the number of candy bars, the weight, and it gave you the answer. Okay, but when you have to choose between 2 or even more alternatives, it's called a branch. Okay, and I give you the example of a tree. It has branches, so you can go one way or you can go another way. Okay, so an example of a branch. We're going to calculate the hourly wages, but we have 2 choices. The people who only work regular time, which is up to 40 hours, or overtime, which is more than 40 hours. And well, this part right here, you have to think about it very thoroughly, okay, because you have to come up with the computation for it. Okay, so regular time, that's easy. Your pay, it's going to be the rate, so let's say like $10.50 an hour times the number of hours. Now, if you work more than 40 hours, like every additional hour, okay, so how are they going to calculate your total pay? So, well, I'm going to go a little bit over the math and the reasoning that they used. So it's the first 40 hours, okay, you're being paid, let's say the $10.50 that we said. Now, each additional hour, that's why here they have hours minus 40, so let's say that you have 41. Okay, so this extra hour, it's going to be paid times, well, the rate times the $10.50, but also at an additional 1.5. Okay, so it's going to be multiplied by 10.5 and then times 1.5. Okay, so that's how they calculate the extra hours plus the regular 40 hours. Okay, but that's just the math. Okay, so here what you need to focus on is that you have 2 options. One that goes up to 40 hours, and then the other one that goes after, or like, yeah, it would be true after 40 hours. Okay, so how does your program knows which one or which way to go or which alternative to choose? Okay, so you have to design the branch. That's your job as a programmer. You're going to organize your code, you're going to design your algorithm. That's why I also recommend that you start with a piece of paper, or if you want to do it in Word or something, like just start writing your choices, your instructions. Okay, so you're going to decide, well, your program needs to decide if the hours are going to be more than 40. So if this statement right here is true, then that means it's overtime, so it's going to compute this gross pay. Now if it's not true, okay, so if it's not true, then what? That means that it's just working, the person is just working a regular shift, okay, no more than 40 hours. Then you're going to use, or your computer is going to use, the regular rate times hour pay. Okay, now, how are we going to implement this branch? It's called an if-else statement. Okay, so you're going to write something like this. If the hours are more than 40, then you calculate the overtime pay rate. Else, meaning that if it's not greater than 40, okay, so it has to be 40 or less, then you're going to compute the regular gross pay. Okay, so you have to think which statement is the one that you're going to evaluate in the if, and that's up to you. Okay, but in this case I chose to use the overtime first. So let's go over the display. Okay, so this code, I am going to run it. Okay, so I had already, well, let me close this. Oh, actually I never told you in class, but the proper way to close your projects, it's going to file and then close solution. Okay, so I am going to open now source code 0208. Okay, but I already have it saved, but it's the same. You just create a new project and copy and paste it. But I already have it ready, so I just click on open project solution, and which one did I say it was? Okay, 0208. Okay, so this is a code. Okay, so you can see here, okay, so you're going to enter the rate, let's say like the 1050 we said, and then the hours. Based on these hours, your program is going to evaluate whether or not the employee is going to get overtime pay rate. Okay, so let's run the program. Yes, last successful build. Okay, let me make the font bigger and put a 24. Okay, so the hourly pay rate, let's say it's 10.50. Okay, hours. Okay, so let's start first with less than 40. So let's say it's 35. Okay, so your pay rate, and remember you have to echo your input. So you're repeating that the hours are 35, the pay rate is 10.50, so then your gross pay is going to be 35 times 10.50. Okay, now let's run it, but now with overtime. Yes. Okay, so now my pay rate, let's say, well, again, 10.50. Okay, the number of hours worked, let's say this employee worked 50 hours. Okay, so it's telling you that the hours are 50, this is the pay rate, and this would be your gross pay. Now you can verify this with your calculator by using the formula in the code. Hopefully it's alright. Okay, so how does this work? Let me debug it step by step. Okay, so this is when you go into the debugger, okay, and you click on the step over. Now when you get to the loop, you may want to click on the step into, but I'm going to let you know when. So I'm going to start by clicking, well, here, but then I'm going to continue to click F10. Yes. Okay, the hourly pay rate. Let's stick to the 10.50. No, hold on, what's going on here? Hold on. Technical difficulties. Okay, here it is. Okay, so F10 again, it goes to the first line. So here it's gonna go line by line until it hits, or it encounters the if else, and you're gonna see what happens right now. Okay, so C in rate, okay, yeah, the 10.50. Then another F10. Now you're gonna input the hours. Okay, so let's try first a regular time. So let's say 39 hours. Okay, not overtime, so it's less than 40. Okay, so see how it goes to the if. Okay, the hours are 39, so it's comparing the 39 to 40. So is 39 greater than 40? No. So the statement inside the parentheses is going to be false. Okay, now let me click on the step into, which is F11, so that it goes into the branch. Okay, see what happened here. Okay, so since this was false, this statement right here, this line, wasn't executed. Instead, it jumped, okay, all the way to this one, meaning that if this is false, then this one is going to get executed. Okay, so then let's just continue. F10. Well, this is just your magic formula for the output, because see, right now it's 409.500000. Okay, so when you hit on the precision, you're going to see, well, your gross pay is now going to be outputted as with 2 decimals because of the precision. Okay, but okay, so the important part here was this one. Now let's try it with the overtime. Okay, so let's start again from the beginning. F10. Yes. Okay, so starting. Okay, so let's enter the same rate, 1050. Okay, F10. Now let's input the hours. Now let's say that he or she worked 45. Okay, so now the hours here are 45, and it's going to compare it to 40. Is this true? Yes. If it is true, then this line should get executed. So now let's press F11 to go into the loop. Well, it's not a loop yet, this is a branch, sorry. See, now this one gets executed. Now, so it didn't jump all the way to the else. Okay, so the line right after the if is the one that got executed. Okay, so if we continue debugging, see, this one was skipped. Okay, so meaning that only this one got executed. That's how the branches work. Okay, so this is the same, and it gives you like some sample input and output here. This is just the syntax. Okay, so how do you write your branches? Now you have to know this for the exam. Okay? And also it's very useful is if you like save it or bookmark it also for your labs, that way you have the syntax already. So you have the if, then the statement that was inside the parentheses that I told you that it's the one that was being evaluated, like you were comparing the input hours to the 40, whether it was greater to or not. Okay, so that one is called a Boolean expression. Okay, because we want, if it's true, it executes this one. If it's false, it executes that one. So we remember when we talked about Boolean variables. Okay, so it's just true or false variables. It's the same thing. This expression right here, it's going to be considered only as true and false. Okay, and well, in this case, we only had one statement. If you're going to have multiple statements, then you have to put brackets to enclose all the statements that are going to be executed. Because sometimes you don't only want the rate, you also want to output something additional or so forth. So for example, let me show you. But I do recommend that you put the braces anyways. Like here, okay, even though you only have one line, like I'd rather have, well, it puts the opening and closing one. So let me put it inside and see how the Visual Studio indents everything on its own. Okay, so it puts the opening and closing so that you won't forget it, because if you don't close it, then it's going to give you an error. I'm gonna put this inside. Okay, so here you can also put something else to be executed, like let's say, okay, so let's add something else. Okay, let's add the cout. Let's just put here that this is overtime, and then here let's just add one semicolon. Oh, I notice that all of the statements here have semicolons, but not this one. Okay, not the if, not the else. Okay, and then here I'm just going to put cout And it's probably not going to make sense, right? But I just like for you to see that these two are executed if this is true, and these two are executed if this is false. This is not overtime. Okay, so if we run it like this, I don't know why it keeps doing that. Okay, now let's put 750. Let's lower it a bit. So overtime, more than 40. Let's say 50. I don't know what's the last successful build. I don't know what happened. Okay, let me copy the whole thing and create a new project. New project, console application, okay. Okay, hope it works now. Let's run it, yes. Okay, there it is. Okay, the hourly was at 750, 50 hours. Is this overtime? Yes. So it tells you right here that it's overtime. And well, let's put overtime and then the \n. Same thing here. Okay. So now let's try it with a regular pay rate. Let's build it. So well, again, we're gonna keep the 750. Then the number of hours, let's put 30 less than 40. So it's not going to be overtime. So no, it's not overtime. But this is just to demonstrate like how multiple statements work inside the if and the else. Okay, so but anyways, I recommend that even if it's only one statement, that you put the braces. Okay, so just to like keep it on the safe side. You may want to add something like another statement later on, so that way you already have your braces there ready. Now, well, we keep on with the same syntax. So if you put the Boolean expression, then this one gets executed if it's true, then otherwise or else the other one gets executed if it's false. Okay. Same thing with multiple. This is the one that I recommend that you follow. Okay, so everything that's enclosed in the braces, it's going to be executed. Otherwise, it's out of the if and the else. Like if you were to put only one, or if you didn't put braces and you put two statements, then only one is going to be part of the if. Okay, so for example, let me show you that. Let's say that, let's take this one out. If we take it out, this one, it's not going to get executed as part of your loop. Well, actually, in fact, it's giving you an error here. Well, it's actually giving you an error. So that's why you guys need to put it, hold on, Control X, and you put it back inside. You should put it always here. But let's take this one out. The one inside the else. Where to put it here, this one, it's always going to get executed afterwards. So even though it is overtime, this is going to get executed. And let me show you how that works. Okay, so let's say 750 again. Then we put overtime 50 hours. So see, you're going to get both of them. Why? Because, okay, so we said this one is true, so this is going to get executed. And remember what happens. Once this is done, it goes out of the else. So it skips this one. And guess what? This is the next statement. Okay, so that's why if you put it inside the braces, it's going to be part of the else. So it's also going to get skipped in case this is false. Okay, so just make sure that you put everything inside the braces. Okay, moving on. Okay, now let's talk about the Boolean expressions. Okay, so we said that these are expressions that are either true or false. And in order to have a true or false, you have to compare them. So we're going to be using comparison operators. Okay, so this is when we use a greater than, less than, etc. Okay, so we said that the hour is greater than 40, that's a Boolean expression. Other operators, okay, that use two symbols, for example, if you want to put greater than or equal to, you have to put greater than or equal to. Same thing with less than or equal to, it's just going to go to the other side. Now, if you want an inequality or something that it's not equal, then this is how you write it, the exclamation and then equal. Now, we said, remember that on chapter 1, okay, whenever you have the computation that I told you that the equal sign there, it's not like in the peas and the pods. Okay, so it's not actually an equal sign, it's an assignment operator. Now, this is the real equal sign. Okay, so when you are comparing different numbers, okay, you're going to use double equal sign without the space. Okay, this is just for you to see it better. But it's supposed to be a double equal sign. This is the real equal. Okay, and this is just like more about the operators, how you write each and one of them. So this is the math symbol, how you would write it in C++, and then it gives you an example and how, like, the equivalent mathematical, how you would write it mathematically. Okay, so the inequality and so forth. Okay, and this is also in your book. Okay, just some fun here. Okay, so the programming memes are gonna start to make sense. Okay, so my mom said, honey, please go to the market and buy 1 bottle of milk if they have eggs. Okay, so there's an if statement here, bring 6. And I came back with 6 bottles of milk. Okay, so for you, or this guy bought 6 bottles of milk because they had eggs. So this is exactly what the computer will do, or how a programmer should think. Okay, so the computer is very precise. It just follows the instructions that you give it. So here, if they have eggs, bring 6. But did the mom specify 6 what? No, so he assumed that, okay, 6 eggs, not 6 bottles of milk. So that's why you have to be very precise when you give instructions to the computer. Okay, so we're going to talk about other expressions, Boolean expressions. The first one is called AND. Okay, so you may need to combine 2 Boolean expressions. Okay, and the first operator would be the AND, meaning that both expressions need to be true. So instead of having here only hours greater than 40, we can say, okay, if they're greater than 40 but less than 50. Okay, so if it's between 41 and 50, then give them this rate. Or you can also have like from 50 to 60, kind of like that, or kind of like your grades. Okay, so you put like, okay, if it's between 90 and 100, you get an A. If it's from 80 to 89, you get a B, and so forth. But you can also combine them. And, well, the first operator that we can use to combine them, it's the AND operator. Now, for the entire thing to be true, then both expressions are true. That's why it has the and it's like it's a double ampersand. Okay, so this one has to be true and this one has to be true in order for the whole thing to be true. Okay, and this right here means that the number that you're looking for, x, is between 2 and 7. Okay, so let me show you an example. Let me open Microsoft Word. Okay, so in math, what you would regularly do is to have like 2, x, and 7. Okay, here you don't write it that way. Okay, so if you want your number to be between 2 and 7, you're gonna have to put that 2x and then and x less than 7, like that. Okay, so it has to be between 2 and 7. So if it's greater than 2 and less than 7, then the whole thing is true. So that's just what the and means, or what it does. We also have the or operator. This is how you write the or, no spaces. Okay, so the or means that either this one or this one can be true, so that the whole thing is true. So it doesn't necessarily, well, also if both are true, it also works that way. Okay, but if at least one of these is true, then the whole thing is true. Okay, so, oh, and we also have a third one, which is a not. Okay, so this would be just the opposite. Okay, so if it's not, if x less than y is not, meaning that it's going to be the opposite. Now, it says here that yes, it's going to be very difficult to understand because, okay, so x equals to y, then in order for it to be true if x is not equal to y, okay, so it's going to be the opposite. So in other words, here it would also be the opposite, or it could also be equal. But this is very confusing, and I don't recommend that you use it in your programs unless it's the only choice that you have. But if not, try to use the and the or. Okay, so it's basically the opposite. Okay, so why would you want to contradict what you're saying or your code? So that's why it's only used in very specific occasions. Okay, so this is what I explained earlier. Okay, so you are not supposed to write it like this. You have to break it down into two parts, and obviously put the and because you want it to be between both expressions, both variables x and z. Okay, so again, like just a recap of what I said earlier and in chapter 1. 1 equal sign, it's the assignment operator, which assigns the values, meaning that 3 is going to be stored in x. Double equal sign, it's an equality operator. This is the equal. You are saying that x is equal to 3. Okay, and you're trying to see if it is. Okay, and you're comparing it with a Boolean statement. Okay, so it would be a Boolean statement. Okay, you can also do this. Okay, but it's an error. So here you're not really comparing it. You are storing the 3 inside the x. So if you put it this way, it's not going to work the way it's supposed to work. Okay, so we already talked about the compound statements. Try to put, even if you don't have compound statements, even if you have single statements, try to put them inside the braces. Okay, like this. We already covered that with another example. And for your conclusion for branches, I'm going to ask you to answer these questions, these 2 questions, and we'll go over them in class. Okay guys, so I'm going to stop the video right here, just in time. And if you have additional questions, let me know. Write down the minute where you had the question, or print out a screenshot and email it to me. We'll go over this on Wednesday, like just a recap. And those of you who have the lab on Tuesday, you may need to implement some of these branches in your assignment. Thank you guys.